So word got out to me and other people that flat ladies weren't wanted, and we go, oh, that means we all have to show up.
Right.
You're listening to Good Faith Weekly. I'm Mitch Randall.
And I'm Missy Randall.
We're here each week exploring the intersection of faith and culture
We find people who stand up, speak out, and step forward.
for inclusion, freedom, and justice for all.
It's time for Good Faith Weekly.
Brought to you by Good Faith Media. Welcome to Good Faith Weekly. On this episode, Missy's got a great story about chickens and a squirrel. And then later on in the pod, we sat down with Renee Ridgeley, who is the founder of Stand Tall AFC. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we are delighted to have a conversation with Renee and the incredible organization that she leads. It is an excellent pod, so stay tuned. Hello there, Missy.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
Well, Mitch,
Yes.
have you ever seen a fight between a gang of chickens and a squirrel?
This sounds like a joke. I have not seen a fight between chickens and a squirrel.
It is not a joke. So, yes, earlier this week.
I have questions.
I know you do. I know you do. This is why I've saved this little story. So earlier this week, you let me out of the office for my lunch break, which was really kind of you.
Yeah, I give you
Thanks.
10 minutes to do something.
Absolutely. So it was pretty nice outside. So I ran down to our favorite local nursery to pick up some, flowers for our window boxes.
Yes.
In any case, I'm terrible at gardening. It takes me forever to make a decision. I think I talked to like 4 people that work there, asking questions to just get a few flowers for these window
But
boxes.
the employees of the nursery actually run the other
They
way
do.
when you get out of the car.
Seriously, I think they were like, I would talk to one and then I wouldn't see them again. I think they were coming across me and then going to hide.
Oh, yeah.
Not kidding.
She's back.
I know. This lady's such an idiot. Anyways, so I'm walking around with my little wagon trying to figure things out. And I noticed there's a squirrel playing around in the plants, and it would get up on the plants and kind of dig around in the dirt. And it even got like in my plants that were my wagon, which I'm
wow.
like, you know what? Not okay, dude.
That's
Yeah.
a brave squirrel.
I know. It was getting really close. And so then I started hearing the squawking of chickens. Our little nursery has just chickens roaming around. And so there were about 4 or 5 of them. And I noticed them getting closer to where the squirrel was. I thought, I'm just going to see how this plays out.
Right.
And so they got kind of close. And sure enough, the squirrel jumped down. And I mean, they had a tussle.
Really?
It was so funny.
Wow.
It was just something I'd never seen before. I was like, I wish I'd had my video out. It was
Oh my
really
gosh.
funny.
So, I mean, there's a whole narrative that we could create. I mean, something happened earlier that morning between the squirrel and the chickens, and the chickens met to discuss how they're going to get the squirrel back. And so they, come together.
You've got too much time on your
I do.
hands, is all I'm saying about that. But yes, it was kind of a funny moment.
That is hysterical.
yeah.
Wow. And you
Anyways,
didn't pull your camera out to get video.
I'm not that fast. I
No.
am terrible in a crisis situation as far as like reflexes.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I would agree, but I wouldn't call this a crisis.
Well, okay. You're right. Not a crisis, but you know that when you've got to have a reflex about
Right,
you.
okay.
I'm terrible.
Sure.
I freeze.
Yeah.
I am definitely a freezer. So
Well,
anyways.
that's fascinating. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you got to share that with us.
Yeah. So, okay, moving on.
Okay.
I'm really excited about our interview today.
Absolutely.
Because we are talking to to Renee Ridgeley, about a topic we have never discussed before on the pod. Actually 2 topics we have never discussed before on this podcast.
Yeah, I was so thrilled that she agreed to come on the show. We met her at the Wild Goose Festival in North Carolina this last summer, and I just learned so much with our time with Renee during this interview. And I'm going to let you tell the audience about the topic.
Well, that's a really clever way to get out of saying it, Mitch, but I'll go ahead and say it. So we are talking today, you guys, about boobies. And since it's October, it's okay to say boobies.
No, I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Yes. So it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
is.
And so we are going to recognize and honor that today with our guest. I'm so excited because she has a message that is so important. But the second thing we're going to talk about at the end of the interview that we've never talked about before on this podcast is the Simpsons show.
I know, right?
Super random.
So random.
But it all is going to make sense
All
once
is
you
gonna
listen
come
to the
together.
interview of how
Yes.
this is connected, because our new friend, Renee, not only is she a breast cancer survivor, but she has also written and voiced her own character on The Simpsons.
Which is remarkable. I
Oh
love
my
it.
goodness. Yes. I mean,
We were in awe when we found that out.
I know. We just were captivated by her story and then found that out.
Right.
It was just, oh my goodness. Anyways, so in honor of our new topic for today, I thought we'd revisit something we haven't done in a while.
Okay. Oh, no. Okay. What is that?
We've not had a quiz in a while.
We have not had a quiz. I knew this was coming. Oh, my gosh.
What, you don't want to take a quiz about
boobies? No.
no, I am sort of teasing. I'm not going to make you take a quiz.
Thank God.
I know. You there's like sweat beating up on your forehead right now.
So many sweat beads right now.
No, but I do have some, again, as we're in the middle of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I thought it would be good for us to kind of talk about some things that I found, some information, some of it, may be familiar to our audience and myself. Some of it's not. So obviously Breast Cancer Awareness Month is dedicated to raising awareness about breast cancer, promoting early detection, and supporting research. Breast cancer is the second most common cancer among women in the United States, with some forms of skin cancer being the most common at this time. Not all breast cancers present as a lump.
Really?
Other symptoms, just include changes in breast size or shape, a discharge or pain. So obviously anything irregular needs to be reported to your physician. Right. Although rare, men can develop breast cancer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The American Cancer Society states that the lifetime risk for men is about 1 in 726. And something I learned today is that you guys actually get a whole week this month.
Really?
Yes, and it begins today.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's exciting.
October 17th through the 23rd is kind of reserved for men's breast cancer awareness. In truth, this is so important because the lack of awareness, and the stigma around men's breast cancer can make it really difficult to detect and, give care, offer care to men or trans men or non-binary people. So, in addition, if you do have a man in your family who's been diagnosed, especially a close relative, that does increase your risk as well. So it's an important thing to be aware of.
I learned about this about 2 decades ago, and I've actually been aware of it and concerned about it to the point where, I make certain that there's no lumps, on my breast as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a problem.
Well, I mean, in I guess in a broader sense, anytime you notice something unusual, in your body, you need to consult your physician. But this is just one thing that I think a lot of people don't think a lot
100%.
about. So yes, so you get the next week.
Excellent.
I have bad news. I almost don't even want to read this.
What's that?
Drinking alcohol can increase your breast cancer risk. I mean, and I think we all know that drinking alcohol increases risk for a lot of things.
It increases a lot of problems.
I know, but for cancer prevention, it's best not to drink alcohol. Sure. It's a toxin, and drinking any amount can damage your body and increase the risk for severe cancers, including oral, throat, colorectal, and esophageal cancers, as well as liver and breast cancer. So, sorry, you guys. But I have a couple of, good bits of news. This is shocking to me, and I went to 2 or 3 sources to verify, but you do not need to learn how to do a breast exam.
Really?
I know. This is from the MD Anderson website, and I did not believe it because all my life I've been told, do your monthly breast exam.
That's all I've ever heard.
Which is horribly stressful because if you're like me and somebody who's a bit of a hypochondriac, you're going to find something wrong.
A little bit?
Every single time. And so I verified this by the American Cancer Society. They note that breast self-exam is no longer recommended as an option for women of any age.
Really?
I almost hesitate to say that because it sounds so wrong.
Why do they say that?
Okay. So Teresa Beavers, medical director of MD Anderson's Lyda Hill Cancer Prevention Center, says studies show that doing a monthly breast self-exam isn't necessary. In fact, women who did not do them, but instead mentioned any changes they noticed, ended up catching cancer just as early. That's why we recommend breast awareness instead.
Really? Wow.
I know. I'm blown away. And
I
I was so hesitant to bring this up because it sounds so not right.
Right.
But like, as the doctor said, any changes you note should be brought to your doctor.
Sure.
And so, self-exams are especially stressful for, women with dense breast tissue and things like this. And so I don't know if that plays into it at all, but just something to be aware of.
Yeah, very much so.
As always, we are not doctors. This is not medical advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am a doctor, but not that kind of doctor.
I'm a professional Googler.
You are the doctor of Google.
Take that for what it is. Breast cancer is highly treatable when detected early, according to the National Cancer Institute.
Absolutely.
Of course, regular screening is very important to early detection,
Right.
as we just mentioned. And breast cancer research is making a lot of progress. Thanks to advancements in research and treatment, the survival rate for breast cancer has been steadily increasing. The Breast Cancer Research Foundation notes that there has been an overall 44% decline in breast cancer deaths since 1989.
Wow.
That's to
That's
me
significant.
sounds very significant. And the National Breast Cancer Foundation says there are currently over 4 million breast cancer survivors in the United States.
Wow, that's amazing.
I mean, it is amazing, but when we think about, in our Rolodex of friends, like
Right.
we know quite a few survivors.
Yes, we do.
And so it's really a powerful statement to research and advancements.
And to acknowledge the fact that there's been so much research through the decades that we've gotten to that number, because, over a very short period of time, medically at least, that is really significant. And that's really good news.
That's very significant. And also, we could put a plug in right now for medical research funding.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
I'm not sure this will fall on the right
Yeah.
ears, but
Yeah.
there it is.
I'm sure RFK Jr. listens to this pod. So, hey,
Well, based upon
Roberto, get on that funding.
based upon some of his medical advice, maybe he does. I don't know. Because again,
Possibly.
I am a professional Googler, not a physician. So again, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is a time to celebrate survivors, to honor those who have lost their battle, and to press on for research and awareness. But I did not give you a full quiz.
You did not.
But I do have one bonus question that I cannot resist asking you that came up
Bring
in
it
my
on.
search.
Bring it on.
What do you think is the average bra size in the United States, Mitch?
Medium.
Oh my God. No, that is not correct.
That's such a safe
That is
answer.
not correct. And in fact, I have the answer here, but I'll go ahead and let our listeners do a Google, because I did Google and I verified it in a couple of. It seems to be a consistent answer across the board, but that is something when I started my search for breast cancer, facts, that is one thing that came up. So
Okay, so it's not medium.
you know what, Mitch? Bless your little heart. It's not medium.
Okay. Oh, well, we are excited about bringing this interview to you this week. Renee Ridgeley is the founder of Stand Tall AFC, and I just really enjoyed our conversation with her today.
Yeah, so I don't want to say too much about the organization, because I really want our listeners to hear all about Renee's story and about the organization from her. But it truly is a fascinating discussion. In it, we touch on such topics as, just, again, women not having agency over their own bodies in the medical realm a lot of times.
Yeah.
The other thing is just how insurance companies play into everything and, are often a roadblock. And also, just the disparities that women of color face in any sort of medical type treatment. So it's a really great discussion. I am so glad to now know of this movement with Stand Tall AFC, and I hope this podcast and this interview will reach someone that it needs to reach, because like we said earlier, we have all been touched by this with a friend or a family member, and the more information that's out there, the bigger the community gets, the more advancements we'll make and the better outcomes we will have for people.
Absolutely. Well, Missy and I'll be right back with Renee Ridgeley. Stay tuned.
Do you have a book idea, outline, or manuscript? Good Faith Media is always accepting book proposals. Our authors engage with an experienced team of editors, designers, and marketers to produce and sell books on a variety of topics. We publish in print and digital and help promote your work through the many resources of Good Faith Media. If you have a book proposal you'd like to run by us, head over to goodfaithmedia.org to get started. That's goodfaithmedia.org.
Welcome back to Good Faith Weekly. On this episode, we've got a very special guest with us. Renee Ridgeley is a Los Angeles-based actress, writer, breast cancer survivor, and advocate. In 2021, she founded the Body Positive campaign, Stand Tall AFC, and in what we have deemed as the best icebreaker fun fact a person could have, Renee also wrote and voiced the character Dr. Wendy Sage on the ever-popular animated sitcom, The Simpsons. Renee, welcome to Good Faith Weekly.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. It's so good to see you, Missy and Mitch, after a couple months after the Wild Goose Festival. So I'm just honored that you guys are having me on your podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes.
I'm so thankful that you were able to join us during this month to talk about such an important issue that we actually were unaware of until we met you at the Wild Goose Festival a couple months ago. And we were so excited to get to share your story and your journey with our listeners. I know everyone's probably dying for us to talk a little more about the Simpsons character. We'll get to that. And we'll also get to the Body Positivity campaign. But first, before we kind of talk about those things, I just want you to share a little bit of your story and your journey in particular with breast cancer.
Well, I had my yearly mammogram. I had just turned 50 and it was suspicious. I was called back. It was the first time I was called back. I didn't have a lot of women have have dense breast, and there's a lot of confusion for their mammograms. Mine never was until this one. And so I wound up being diagnosed a couple weeks later with what's called DCIS. It's if you're going to have breast cancer, it's the one you want.
Okay.
It's considered stage 0, which means it's confined to the ducts. It hasn't become a tumor and kind of multiplied outside of the duct. So I thought I didn't have to have chemotherapy, and I didn't think I was going to have radiation, which I didn't, but I had to have a mastectomy. It was pretty extensive, so there was no option for that. And I thought that it was going to be an easy peasy. I don't know why. I think one of my surgeons actually mentioned the word easy peasy, and I was like, okay, just a mastectomy. I've really enjoyed my breasts. They're a sacred part of
Right.
motherhood. I nursed my kids, and it's okay to let this go. Like it's in the big picture, it's a small price to pay for more time on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and I went against my instincts to not to get implants, to just remain flat after mastectomy. And at the time, this was 2016, there was no word for that. You had to request, you had to say, I want no reconstruction. So it felt like a pejorative. It felt like saying, I want no chemo, I want no radiation. It felt like part of your treatment you were rejecting. Later, this was changed by my colleague who introduced the word with the National Cancer Institute called aesthetic flat closure. So now surgeons and patients have that word and they know what it means and what it looks like, which was really important. So I didn't go with my instinct. I had breast reconstruction, and I'm not going to spend time going down that road because it was real, like going into it too deeply, because it was full of damage, collateral damage to my muscle. My muscle tore off my sternum. I couldn't drive a car, hug my kids for a year. It was a really deep, dark year, and I couldn't move my arms to even my shoulder height. So I had to wait a year to have that changed out. I had it changed out to put my muscle back down, my implant on top, and then I got what's called breast implant illness. So I had basically a rash around my entire torso. I had a fever for 3 months, and I started having allergies to things that I'd never had allergies to before. And I thought, like most women, like this cannot be related to my implants because I've been told they're safe. Well, it turns out there's a lot of risk with implants and with a foreign object in anyone's body. And
Right.
we're, as breast cancer patients at the time, we were not informed about this. It was just, again, put you on the conveyor belt, and this is part of your treatment plan. So I was not in touch with my breast surgeon. because you don't go to your breast surgeon for a rash and a fever and things like that. But when I did kind of put everything together and really got informed through patient advocacy groups and online communities and realized, oh, I have breast implant illness, I emailed her and let her know what the symptoms were. And she called me the next morning and said, talk to me. What's going on? I let her know. And she's like, breast implant illness is real. I think we need to get them out. When do you want this done? I said, next week. And she said, done. Come on, let's come in and let's do a pre-op. And so I had them removed. There was bacteria growing on my implant. So you can see in my breast cancer story becomes about the reconstruction and not the cancer, which is what my life was for about 3 years, healing from all the surgeries that I had to have. So once they came out, I had immediate relief from the pain of my muscles that had been kind of had ripped and cut and misplaced and just, replaced. And then I started healing. And my next journey, as my body was calming down from the last and final surgery, my next journey was to kind of heal me, to let go of the kind of shame I had around getting implants and having had that and my body looking so different. And I think that my healing came out of community. My cure, my treatment came from medicine, but my healing came from my community. So once I found that group of women being really just accepting of their new bodies and doing that through sharing photographs, through sharing images of clothing and what looks great on a flat chest, and their personal stories with their partners and with their children and how they approach this. I just grew more confident, and here I am 9 years later, and I can really authentically say that I love my body and I honor my body every day, and I feel like it's just served me so well and it's gone through so much. And it takes me around this planet. I get to go to things like Wild Goose Festival because I have this great body. So that's my story. And I work in the breast cancer community, and it's really about the healing and the body acceptance.
I will never forget walking away from our conversation at the Wild Goose. I mean, it was a roller coaster of emotions as you retold your story to us, and just hearing it again today, I'm both angered by it because you mentioned a lot of biases within the medical community when it comes to treating breast cancer, but also just so inspired by your story and the stories that you shared with us. But I've had to learn a lot, Renee, since that conversation. Missy and I have had numerous conversations about breast cancer survivors. But the one thing I think I really need to ask you about on behalf of the audience is all of the acronyms, because there are a lot of them. So there are two in particular I want to ask you about, and that is BMX and AFC. So real quickly, can you just tell us what those mean for us?
Sure. So medical jargon is hard to wrap your brain around and your mouth around. And so BMX stands for bilateral mastectomy. So a surgeon will write MX for mastectomy, and B is bilateral. U would be unilateral mastectomy. So I had a bilateral mastectomy. And AFC is aesthetic flat closure. And this is the word that's really been profound in the breast cancer community, because about half of the women who either must have mastectomy or they're previvors, maybe a BRCA gene or something, so they're having mastectomy. They didn't have this word before, and it gives them this language. It legitimizes their choice. And that word was coined in 2020. And before that, for the decades before that, women just had to say no reconstruction.
Right.
And that often meant that they wound up with a lot of excess tissue sitting on their chest, completely unsightly. Nobody wants that. You can't wear a t-shirt. People are looking, it looks, it's unsightly. AFC means people care what it looks like.
Right.
That's why the word aesthetic is in there. So this word has just been really meaningful to the whole breast cancer community. And again, about half the women who have mastectomy choose to go flat, or sometimes it chooses them like yours truly. It chose me.
Yeah.
It's so crazy with all of the focus on breast cancer research and all of the awareness that we've all really grown up with.
Right.
And that this is such a new thing. You're saying this is a term that came about in, what did you say, 2020? Like, how is
2020.
that even
Wow.
possible? So now this is perfect. Let's talk all things Stand Tall
Absolutely.
AFC, because this is what is just so inspiring. Tell us about how this movement and this organization was birthed and why it is so important for survivors.
So Stand Tall AFC started in 2021. And the previous year, a group of advocates, of flat women, they weren't even advocates at that point. They were really just being together and helping each other get through it and heal. They went to a walk, the pink ribbon walks, the
Oh, yeah.
pom-poms, the rah-rah. They went to the walk in Palm Desert, which is adjacent to Palm Springs, but very different. Palm Springs is kind of like brunches and jewelry stops and antique stops, and Palm Springs is a lot of it's newer, and a lot of plastic surgeons have their offices there. A lot of LA plastic surgeons have their offices there. So they went to this walk, and at the finish line, they said, "Let's be bold. Let's show our scars. Let's be authentic." They took their shirts off and walked like arm in arm next to each other across the finish line, and they were met with like such like joy by the participants, just like hugging and people saying, "I look like you," and they were dancing in the street. It was really beautiful. So the following year, they asked to have a booth, and again, going back to like this is a kind of plastic surgery capital. There were plastic surgeons who had booths there. Well, the small board of this organization came back and said, "Well, we'll take your money, but we can't guarantee you a booth."
Oh my gosh.
And behind the scenes, people had heard that they said, "Those are the flat ladies that took their shirt off. We don't want them here." So word got out to me and other people that flat ladies weren't wanted, and we go, "Oh, that means we all have to show up."
Right.
Yeah.
That means they need to be updated, because this is part of breast cancer. And don't shame us. Don't make us hide under a rock. If a woman comes to a walk with no hair and no wig on, she is lauded and lifted up by the community. If you're in a wheelchair because you're stage 4 and you've lost the ability to walk, you're lifted up. If you have scars across your chest, there's nothing sexual there. It's for better or worse, it's been neutralized, but scars are shocking, but it's authentic. So Stand Tall goes into breast cancer walks and breast cancer events. So it's very specific. There's no blurred lines. People know what this is. This is a mastectomy, and someone who has treated cancer or prevented cancer. And it grew from this one walk to, I think now, I think there have been over 250 events. Thousands of people have walked. It's a movement now. So Stand Tall supports flat teams that go to these walks with visibility kits, but people are on their own just doing it and realizing like this is part of the release of shame.
Right.
Being vulnerable to your community and having them accept you, that is the release of shame. And that's what this campaign has done for people.
And I think for some people, Mitch and I have family members who have dealt with breast cancer. But what you're talking about is still kind of foreign even to us. And I think what drove the point home, and I was wondering if you would mind maybe sharing the anecdote you shared with us about the woman who went to her doctor. And again, so much of this goes back to just a woman's right to have agency over her body and choice. But the woman that you told us about who had asked to not have reconstruction, she wanted AFC. And tell us, do you recall this story?
I do. That actually was Kim Bowles' story. And Kim is the woman who I mentioned worked with the National Cancer Institute to coin the word aesthetic flat closure, which is used by surgeons all over now. I mean, it just took off. But Kim is a scientist and a young mom. She was diagnosed in her 30s with cancer, aggressive cancer. She had to have chemo and radiation, and she had done her research, and she did not want reconstruction because she wanted to go right back into being a mom. She wanted to go back into her life, and reconstruction is not a procedure, it's a process. Right. So she took photographs in and told her surgeon she did not want reconstruction. She had large breasts. It's harder to make someone flat with larger breasts. If you're a seamstress or a tailor or a sewer, it's hard to take something that's large down to something that's flat. And so she brought in a plastic surgeon. He was brought into the team. They all agreed. And mind you, she's been in treatment for over a year at this point. She's going in for her mastectomy. And she's lying on, and sometimes you have mastectomy after the treatment if it's aggressive. So she went in, she was on the operating table, and the doctor leans over right before she's put under, and says, "I'm going to leave you a little extra skin just in case you change your mind. And she woke up with what I was talking about, the redundant tissue. I tell people it looks like a Shar-Pei dog is sitting on your chest, like just rolls of what do you do with that?
Right.
Like it's, and she was pissed off,
No doubt.
and went, because it was clear, her photos were clear. She had had this conversation with him, and that was, that was a patriarchal surgeon saying, I know what's better for you than you. I know what you're going to want later down the road, little lady. And so she took a sign and went to the Cleveland Clinic and said, "Moobs by Bernard." She was calling them moobs, the kind of weird whatever was going on her chest. And she got on the Today Show and started a movement. So I feel honored to have learned from her and to be her colleague. And she's the one that helped me realize that, like, we're just updating people. We're just helping them out. They just
Yeah.
need to move forward. And here we are to show them what patients want and what patients are talking about.
Absolutely. And I've kind of copied over the core values that are listed on the website, which are visibility, dignity, empowerment, informed choice, and inclusion. And I love that for women to, when you've had something happen to your body that, you had no control over, to be able to have visibility and dignity and choice is so important. And like I said, we had no idea, had never heard of this as a movement or as a cause, but it's just so vitally important to get the word out about your options when you've been struck with something like this.
I think I may have shared with you guys the really profound experience I had the very first walk, the walk in Palm Desert. And I was not really thinking I would take my shirt off because I thought, well, I think I look prettier with my shirt on. But the day before, someone had given us temporary tattoos and I put them on and I went, whoa, these are gorgeous. I think I can do this thing. So I went to the walk, and I think I was one of the first people to just kind of like take my shirt off and walk around. And immediately people were coming up to me saying, "Can I take my photograph with you? This is beautiful." And probably within 5 minutes, I had a young Latina woman come up to me, and she had the pink shirt of the walk on, and she was very curvy and lots of like necklaces, the Mardi Gras necklaces they give you. And she had her whole family there, and they were little kids, like I would say maybe like 5 years old to her grandparents. So it's like 10 or 12 of them. And she said, "Can I take a photo with you?" And I said, "Sure." And so we, put our arms around each other and we took a photograph. And then she looked at me and she paused and she took her shirt off, and she had a bra on and very large breast. And then she looked at her family and she reached around back and she unhooked her bra and it fell to the floor with the breast forms, and she was completely flat like me.
Wow.
And her family, the love in their eyes, they were crying, they were clapping, they were all smiling. It was one of the most profound moments I've ever, when I talk about it now, I'm still tearing up because I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that she would transform me, and then my presence would transform her in that moment. In that one moment, that was the release of shame. Like her whole family saw her and said, "We still love you, Mom. We still love you, wife. We still love you, daughter." And that's what Stand Tall is. And I'm like, well, I'm in this forever now.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Well, Renee, I was perusing the Stand Tall website. It's standtallafc.org for those who want to go check it out. But as I was doing some research, talking to Missy about it, I came across yet another acronym that I need some education about, and that is WHCRA, and that is a mouthful. So what is WHCRA, and what do you and other supporters want to see changed?
WHCRA actually stands for, simple words, Women's Health and Cancer Rights Act. And it was a bill enacted by Congress that ensures all women the right to breast reconstruction after mastectomy. So that that building back breast wouldn't be just for the wealthy. But what's happened is aesthetic flat closure is not breast reconstruction, it's chest wall reconstruction. And so it takes a longer time to make someone smooth and flat, as opposed to, I'll call it the Shar-Pei look.
Right.
And so for them to spend an extra hour in the operating room everyone needs to be paid, the facility, the anesthesiologist, everyone. And so a lot of times women get pushback from surgeons or from their insurance company that they won't pay for AFC
Right.
because it's not reconstruction. So what we're trying to do is introduce 3 new words to the WHCRA, which it would say breast and chest wall reconstruction. And then you cover everybody.
Sure.
And then insurance companies cannot kind of wiggle out of this and try to deny AFC for people.
So is the bill before Congress now, or just trying to get it introduced?
We're trying to get it introduced, and there's someone very active in New York. We've done it state by state a little bit. Like states have introduced the needing to have chest wall reconstruction put in there, but we want it done on the federal level. And we're hoping Chuck Schumer out there.
He's a listener. Hey,
He's a listener. Okay. One of his former staffers is a good friend of mine, and Joe Amato. Her sister is also a New York State senator. And we are trying to get that introduced as soon as Congress gets its act together and gets back.
Yeah. Well, when it does get introduced and hopefully, it turns into a Senate bill, please keep us informed, because we would love to tell our audience to call, make certain that their senators and House reps support this bill, because this is very, very important.
Thank you. And it's also nonpartisan.
Right,
It's
yeah.
really
Right.
like
Yeah.
there's no one saying no to this. Maybe insurance companies, who we all know have
Right.
a lot of power in the lobbying world, but everybody can get behind this.
Absolutely.
Okay, now for the fun part. When we met, we were captivated by your story, obviously, and the stories you shared from other women. But then we found out your fun fact that you have voiced and written your very own character on The Simpsons. So tell us about her and how she came to be.
There she
is on your shirt.
There's Sage.
There she is.
Wendy Sage.
Oh my gosh, so inspiring.
Love it. So tell us about her character.
So, full disclosure, my husband is the showrunner of The Simpsons and he's been on the show for a long, long time. He's a long timer there. And I said, I think you should put a breast cancer patient on the show, and she needs to be flat, and this is visibility. And he's like, we don't talk about cancer on The Simpsons. I'm like, the beauty is you don't have to talk about it because her body will say it all. One boob says it all. She also has a port scar. So a lot of cancer patients, I know that and identify with that. So he had an index card sitting in his office on the cork board that said uniboob for a long, long time. And I kept kind of bringing it up, and I knew he was working on it behind the scenes. And then he brought a script home and he said, I think this might be it. And I read the script. It's called Lisa's Belly. If anyone wants to look it up, you can always watch one episode for free through Disney Plus, I think. So Lisa's Belly, it's a beautiful episode written by Juliet Kaufman. And there was a hypnotherapist in there because Lisa and Marge go to work. They're having body issues, some body shaming going on. And so they go to this woman, and how beautiful that she's helping them heal from kind of body issues. And she's just there rocking her one boob in her tight shirt.
Yeah.
No shame, just like, this is who I am, this is what and there's just no discussion about it. And so when it came out, people in the breast cancer community were kind of blown away. My husband had emails and Twitter messages and things like that from people saying, like, I woke up in the hospital, I just had my mastectomy. I turned on the TV to watch The Simpsons, and I see me there represented on the screen. I can do this.
That's incredible.
So it's just, she comes back, she makes appearances every once in a while. We try to get her in an October episode. But she's, I think she's the first one-breasted character on a TV show.
That's amazing. I remember seeing your tote bag with her character on there, and I just thought, how people will, get those things made, the cartoons that look like themselves, and I just thought that's what that was. And you showed, and you're like, no, this is my character. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. But what a beautiful way to introduce that into the show. Like you said, we've all, dealt with the body shaming and the issues, and just to bring it in and it's just not naming it, but that says so much about the message that you're trying to communicate and just the theme of the show. I just love it. Love it, love it, love it.
So Renee, Missy and I travel a lot across the country, attending events, and we get to know a lot of the people that we interact with. One of the things that we've noticed over the last 5 years, as we continue to fund research and really battle this terrible, terrible disease called cancer, is that, especially in the last several years, there are more and more young people, young women who are being diagnosed with breast cancer in particular. And so we do have listeners right now who are finding themselves newly diagnosed with breast cancer, maybe trying to face these decisions that we talked about here today. So in your experience, what advice would you offer them today who are listening, who just are just trying to struggle through this and find some peace and not, you know where they are. What would you have to say to them?
The first thing I usually say to women is slow down, take a breath. Breast cancer is usually not an emergency. Now, in a young person, that might not be as applicable because younger women tend to be diagnosed with more aggressive cancers. And their treatment plan usually comes up front, the chemotherapy, and there's usually not a lot of debate on chemotherapy. I recommend people get a second opinion, but I think the next thing after having a good medical team is having a good community. And whether that be your faith community, your moms at school community, childhood friends, or just going into the breast cancer world, that's cliche, but it's the worst club with the best members. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So women really connect over this experience, again, because it's a sacred part of our body. And when you hear that word cancer, you're all you're thinking about is am I going to survive? Mm-hmm. And the good news is that there are a lot of treatment options that weren't available even 10, 15 years ago. Younger women tend to be diagnosed with HER2 positive. There's great treatments for that, that UCLA, Dr. Dennis Slayman came up with, and it extends people's lives for sometimes 10, 20 plus years. So, and that's only if it's metastatic. If it's in the beginning, early stages, people are living longer and longer and surviving cancer. So I do think it's about taking a breath, because it just kind of feels like a whirlwind, and finding your community.
Yeah. Yeah. What great advice. Well, Renee Ridgeley, thank you so much for being our guest this week on Good Faith Weekly. You are the very reason Missy and I do this podcast. We are so inspired by your story and your organization, StandTallAFC.org. We are just so thankful for all the work you do, and we can't wait to come out to LA and see you sometime. So we're excited about that.
That would be great.
But before we let you go, Renee, we've got one last question that we ask all of our guests here at Good Faith Weekly, and Missy has the honor of asking it.
So, Renee, as you know, our tagline at Good Faith Media is "There's more to tell." So, in light of your work and our conversation today, what is your more to tell?
Well, I would direct people that want more information about AFC to a great website called Not Putting on a Shirt. And that's founder Kim Bowles, who I spoke about earlier. And then the other piece of literature that I think is really great is Audre Lorde. She wrote the Cancer Diaries. She was a feminist, a queer poet, and she died of metastatic breast cancer. And she wrote some profound things on breast cancer and her journey. And she wrote about a lot of topics as well. But that's some place that young women could go to and feel like they could be empowered by what they're reading.
Love that. Well, again, thank you so much. You are welcome back to the pod anytime, my friend.
Thank you. It's so great to see you guys again.
And to our audience, we want to thank you for tuning in this week, and we'll be back next week with another guest. And until then, keep living good faith. You've been listening to Good Faith Weekly, hosted by Mitch and Missy Randall. This weekly podcast from Good Faith Media discusses matters of faith and culture.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and give us a like and a glowing review. We produce the podcast out of Norman, Oklahoma. Our music comes from Pond 5.
And we're supported by listeners like you. Learn more about us at goodfaithmedia.org.